Alex Hanser here, July 4th, 2017, first video of the day. So I want to cover some of my initial thoughts. And some of us get more imagery than others, also during certain times in the dream realm. And sometimes images that perhaps we see on Facebook or somewhere else, something that's significant once it's logged and lodged in our memory banks and our consciousness, so to speak, it can really reemerge in our subconscious, in our dream state. There was an image that someone had posted in a MGTOW group, and I thought it was very distasteful. And there's a lot of deranged men out there that really don't understand the social engineering, don't understand the matrix. They just understand that they are in a state of misery and anger because they're not receiving the attention that they would like. And I understand what that feels like. However, I understand there's a greater reason why this is taking place. There are women out there that are facing their own loneliness. I'm not in this man versus woman, woman versus man dichotomy, but I will criticize it. I will criticize even those aspects of the female sex, the programming that would suppress the sacred masculine, that would participate in their own version of gender discrimination and domination. So we're going to see more of this as the future goes on. What a lot of these men and women don't understand, that are really angry at the other sex, is that it's been designed this way for a long time. That image that was posted was a blonde woman being body slammed in the WE. I made a video about 10 years ago about the WE promoting domestic violence against women, and I was discussing then at the age of 28, then in the year 2008, think about the concept of women going with their husbands, going with their boyfriends, and paying to watch a spectacle in which women are slapped around. That may not be what the main course is. It's not necessarily going to be on the poster, women slapped around, followed by some other Roman spectacles. These are things that are just appearing in the plot by design, as you know, of course, and you should, and even if you're not a fan, but that there is this thing that is not just about fake fighting or fake wrestling, known as professional wrestling. It's really a satanic ritual where other dark things come through. This is just one spoke on a much larger wheel of societal influence. So I want you to think about that, just on a basic level. So when the book comes out, Everybody Lies, that discusses that the Google search results are indicating that there's a larger amount than previously thought of women viewing pornography featuring violence against women. Things that make you go, and confirm concerns, suspicions. I also was in a local group where things are bought and sold, and I clicked on a profile out of curiosity. And one of the first things that was there is, people are doing these memes now, right? Where people type something out and it goes up in a meme. I guess it's an option on Facebook, and there's an aspect of it that seems dumbed down. That people responding to images and memes more than actual articles or actual videos. So I'm kind of avoiding that level of meme-ness. But one of the things she said, that moment where you just say to your boyfriend, hey, I just want to watch Netflix, not make out or watch another 9/11 truth conspiracy theory movie. I never see anybody post like that, but it's like, okay, so here's a young, seemingly beautiful on the outside female, and the main beef that she has with just men in general is anyone trying to bring her awareness as to why our nation is at war. And included in that, you have the rape of other women at the hands of our troops. And here we have actual evidence, and we're looking at it, and it's like, the meme is literal. Don't tell me about why there's a genocide taking place. I want to watch the mainstream media's movies. I want to be programmed. I don't want to be deprogrammed. Either get it or get out, dude. And I appreciate her honesty. I really appreciate her honesty. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to be honest with the ladies. I'm going to be honest with the men. I thought, I guess maybe a decade ago, that there would be more awake people now than a decade ago regarding the things that I started talking about more than a decade ago. And instead, it's the opposite. people have been rerouted. And that's why I've spent hours and hours and hours, many podcasts, discussing how the whole fake news web, as I refer to it, it's not really being exposed by others. Specific examples of fake news where whole communities of innocent immigrants are being targeted and called terrorists. And this is actually happening right now, even after the election of Donald Trump. And there's going to be an increase in Islamic communities within the United States attacked because of what YouTube continues to allow and promote in its recommended news feed section. I want to thank the few of you that have given me some positive feedback that you've noticed this as well and that you appreciate this being called out. Because I'm not seeing Rachel Maddow calling this out, Alex Jones, others in the mainstream alternative media, left, right, and independent. It's like they're dancing around the issue itself. I'm also noticing that with my own Facebook feed, with my own contacts, people are steering away from showing that they're seeing the articles about the ongoing genocide, acid attacks against Middle Eastern immigrants in Western nations. They're steering away from showing empathy. And I'm watching this with a microscope and going, where is this humanity, lack of humanity coming from? Where men and women of this culture are able to avoid that and honest karmic discussions about karmic blowback consequences, the universal law, the almighty creator. I see people dancing around those issues. What we see with religion for a lot of people is an excuse for people to get away from their own spiritual growth and worship something while attempting to, whether they're aware of it or not, stop someone else's spiritual growth by insulting their independent path. The fact that they're independent from religious doctrine. I appreciate the fact that I was not forced into any religion. And I came to my own beliefs and I came to reject certain things that were presented to me as truth. And as many of you know, I have Muslims for relatives, but I'm not considered family per se because I'm not of their culture, never lived within their culture, and I'm not a Muslim. And I speak out against the apathy within their own subculture. And so, for those reasons and others, I continue to operate and live as an independent. And it's not always easy. It's certainly difficult financially, but it's also rewarding when you know that everything that you've done because you worked for it. And I would like to have a bit of hope as far as increasing incrementally my growth online, but it seems that there's been some sort of a digital sabotage where it almost seems as if I'm invisible, or it's not that I'm invisible and there is no sabotage and there is no conspiracy. Society really has drifted in another direction. And it's frightening and it's scary because we haven't hit bottom yet. The psychosis spell that people are under, we're still on the up curve. We haven't hit what I perceive to be any peak out, to thus hit a crescendo as we slide down and return back to a sane way of life. And that sane way of life crescendo, calming back down, it may seem that way to you based on where you're living and what your experiences are. I mean, I'm shocked to see some people call this the most peaceful time in history. But then I realize now that I've come to understand more about tribalism and how people that treat their tribalism like a religion and how they work to edit out reality as they maintain their left-right tribalism as long as they can maintain a certain political perspective And anything considered conspiracy theory is blasphemy to their groupthink structure. If they can edit reality on a group level and agree socially to exile those from their circles that are presenting information that could be perceived to be conspiratorial, blasphemy. Society has its ways of punishing those. Just like in Muslim societies, they have ways of punishing non Muslim family members. See, there's ways in which people around the world believe in social punishment because without their social punishment, how would their groups have the power that they have the influence that they have in their communities and in their countries? So, social exile is a tool of societies everywhere to prevent people from their independence. Once someone accepts and even appreciates the social exile, when they realize that the opposite of exile in some of these dangerous societies would be to be welcomed into toxic environments, to be bedding down with toxic people, to be working alongside toxic individuals that can lead people astray with drugs, alcohol, sex, other things. It's not so much sex that's wrong, not at all. It's with the wrong people. It's based on the wrong things. There, in fact, should be more sex amongst more conscious members of the human society. Nothing wrong with perhaps some more conscious human beings procreating into this reality. I think no matter what, nature has its ways. As we can see, sometimes conscious babies being born to unconscious parents, and conscious parents at times giving birth to little Damians in many cases, right? Children growing up with literally everything. And they grow up to be a certain age after mommy and daddy gave them everything and bailed them out over and over and over and over. I've literally met these monsters in my life. The sons and heirs to millionaires, not billionaires, but millionaires. The way that they behave and their sense of entitlement. And then people that aren't even sons of heirs to billionaires, but they're on the materialistic path and they've shut themselves off from spirit and intuition. What people need to understand is when you feel exiled by society, it can be a blessing because this society is on a highway to hell. If you have people that are fighting the streets and they're literally like wearing their gang colors, like Tiny with his little biker vest, his little yellow shirt, playing the token minority role, and then you have others um, doing the same thing on Antifa side. On an intellectual level, some of the points from Antifa on the internet make sense. It's when you look at their behaviors in the streets, the blocking of traffic, and other things that the potentially good points that they're trying to make are basically discredited. But I don't agree with the sentiment and the opinion that things aren't getting more racist on a level within our nation. They are. It's how do you respond to something like that? Is it jumping on cars? Is it putting on masks? I can tell you at the minimum, it's discussing it like an adult, and I'm trying to discuss that now. And to remind people, there's a program. You can go ahead and stamp conspiracy theory or spiritual theory, which is really what it is. You can go ahead and stamp that label on what I'm discussing, but it's really more than that. It's really, really much more than that. And there's a larger world in this. This is some finite reality where the illusions of separation obviously are held up very strong in a reality to where we are only picking up on so much visible light. We are inhabiting these bodies with these biological codes, which I'll speculate at this time, speculate on how some of these codes work. Because a lot of human beings haven't chosen to free themselves from these biological codes, these biological imperatives. So I keep discussing the lower aspect of biological consciousness that the white supremacists and neo Nazis is saying is actually natural, in line with nature, to stay within your own perception of race, skin tone, even though this is really in relation to how much sun we're getting ancestry with regards to proximity to the equator. It doesn't really have to do with religion. When you live in a world, though, where people are literally associating melatonin levels in the skin, right? And they're associating that with a religion, and people are even going, whoa, this is like a massive deception. How can this many human beings be acting like they've lost their shit? It's not an accident. Otherwise, 5 years ago, you would have seen a rise in this behavior. What about 10 years ago? There's something supernatural and occultic about it. This is why we're also hearing about the rise in Nazi mythos, Norse mythos, pagan mythology, symbolism, Nazi occult symbolism. Not just Jeremy Christian, but other groups that are pledging their allegiance to Odin and other archetypes, or as I was discussing over the winter before a lot of this stuff was going on, archons that work through elements of the New Age movement, people worshiping and promoting their archetypes and receiving disinformation about future timelines, humans being saved by certain alien groups, Pleiadians, that are often featured as beautiful white people with blonde hair. We're going to come back down to that. This has nothing to do with attacking any racial group. And has everything to do with highlighting some sort of occultic mind control that seems to supersede, in some cases, government, potentially. When you're dealing with women having dreams and having encounters with false archetype, archangel saviors, they're actually there to court them. They're actually there to harvest their eggs. They're actually there to run surveillance on their children as they literally continue their program. And it is an ongoing program. The mass sum of everything going on within this nation and Western nations is like a huge black mass. It's not just the Katy Perry songs and what you're seeing in pop culture and Miley Cyrus. That's there and that's obvious. And then we see the WE body slamming the woman again all these years later. And it's like, I've been looking for this answer for years. Where have been the men and women of this society that are outraged? It's not just about the woman also being sexually assaulted and molested and kidnapped in the Middle East when groups like Blackwater and the US military and Western troops are occupying. It's a situation that a man goes through when he loses his wife or he sees his wife violated before his very eyes, or he's murdered before his wife is violated, or vice versa, all to extract a false confession. So, what is a human being really? We think of reptilian, cold blooded. I talked about that yesterday. Some people sometimes use the terminology insectoid to describe how humans are operating. I think that there is obviously a natural state on a spiritual level to that which we are, and then there's the body. And the body can be in periods to where it's expressing itself in a more loving manner, where it's broken certain biological codes. Maybe there can even be certain planets where souls have evolved to a certain level where they're using the human body in different ways. I would love to live in that major city with elevators and cars and flying vehicles. Hell, I don't care if there is little transhumanism as long as there is true spirituality there, not transhumanism here on earth like you're thinking, connected to the beast, but technology in general being used in a whole different way. And I think if we were really conscious, we wouldn't need microchips and brain chips and that type of transhumanism. We'd be operating just naturally with technology, using it to better our world and not letting it surpass our humanity and spirituality, and not predominantly using technology for weapons of mass destruction and genocide. There's a lot of people out there that are begging for free energy that don't deserve it. Can you imagine the level of death people would take this country to and other countries to with infinite energy just in the hands of everybody? You would have to remove the global elite from the problem, from the situation. for something like that to work. You would need a more conscious society to where the energy wouldn't be used for laser weaponry, for frying people, for mind control purposes. It would need to be in the hands of a conscious population that would prevent that type of dark crystal activity. Right now, the technologies are used for some sinister occultic mind control, um, satanic purposes. Without a doubt, a person that actually, Ashley, I saw something she posted on Facebook last night about cell phone towers. She helps me turn in episodes in Portland. And one of the factors of cell phone towers, one of the things that it can induce is sexual arousal. Now, picture a bunch of cell phone towers in an urban area attacking the men on a psychic level to cause them to go on a rape spree. I've thought about these things for over 10 years because it was about that period that I picked up on the fact that it was happening in Portland, that there was some mind control happening, spiritual mind control to some of the inhabitants and residents. And this is taking place in the unseen realms. And it is so unfortunate that we are not yet independent as a society to hear out our own spiritual views on what's happening in this black mass, in this Americult, spelled with three Ks instead of one C. And see, I said stuff like that 10 years ago, 12 years ago when I started, and it was acceptable during Bush. And it quickly became unacceptable under Obama and even more unacceptable under Trump. So people were starting to see how we were moving in a fascist direction. And even Jordan Maxwell talked about the fasci of Congress. They only spoke like that when it was convenient for them politically to put out that narrative. Now it's more obvious than ever as people sig howl with their USA, 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 as the bombs continue to drop, as the hate crimes increase, as people choose to avoid that news, as people now, as I see my numbers are sliding back down, now that this is becoming a predominant topic, and I don't care. I'm going to allow my numbers to slide back down. The type of slimy, creepy feeling that I get from a certain percentage of the YouTube audience still remains. It's like more or less observing what it is that I'm saying, not supporting what I'm doing, but observing what I'm saying for whatever purpose, whoever these people are, whoever these people are. On another note, for those that do want to comment on my work, they're chomping at the bit. It's easy for you to do it outside of my forum. All you got to do is follow me on Twitter. That would be great if you followed me on Twitter. There's like nobody commenting on my stuff on Twitter. Why just YouTube? Seriously, a lot of you are on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter. Like the posts. Please thumb up if you like the videos. Okay, because this is like it's a real reflection. Now, some people are going to have multiple accounts, and I'll notice how they'll be like four thumb down in like 5 minutes and like nothing for like a day on some videos. So some people are playing games of multiple accounts, which is fine. But for the rest of you, right, that claim that you support this video or you like this video, share the video, upvote the video, and comment on the Facebook page, facebook.com/alexanswery.tv, right? And the Twitter page. Share the videos to Twitter, or rather Reddit and Twitter. Reddit has multiple sections outside of conspiracy. And so, and that's always a compliment to someone's work when you share their work and you don't just watch it, and just run off to something else. When you actually share it somewhere in a forum, in a board, I don't share my stuff all over, but I want the content to reach people. So I'll share once on Twitter, once in a while. I'll share once in a while on Reddit, but not all the time. And most of the time, I'll try to have my posts over at the Facebook page. So having said that, also reeling it back to where we were discussing earlier, it pains me to see so many women celebrate other women being slapped around on national TV. It pains me to see the lack of women supporting good men in this world. It's painful to watch women drawn to abusive men and situations to where there's a drama that may go on for hours and hours and hours, where it's not necessarily about her being dominant, but the man being dominant to her, someone being dominant, the sexuality around the drama of arguing and the power play. The power play. Like two people wrestling as foreplay in bed before sexual intercourse. And I've come across a lot of women that almost seem to really require that type of fight or flight battle energy or something like that. And also rough sex and things like that. It's not too far away. Now, I'm not here to demonize sexual practices, but I am here to suggest that our wiring seems to be wired to continue to provide the planet with lower conscious human beings. Nature has a wild card with sometimes conscious human beings being born out of unconscious parents because consciousness is possible. So you can have alcoholic parents, drug addict parents, and someone could be born to them that's literally of their DNA, right? Neanderthal like and everything. And they, as a whatever person, whatever label, perception of race, black, Asian, white, and they can choose to be a good person based on the experiences that they had or the pains that they went through. They can choose to not be an alcoholic, to not be an abuser, to not let themselves be abused by men if they witnessed their mother allowing certain things, or to not abuse women if they witnessed other things, or to not allow themselves to be abused by women. So nature has a way, it seems. And you're seeing a program, of course, when I talk about this, that is declaring war on nature, declaring war on the female. You even see females joining in on the war on the female that brings a less than pure, the perception of a pure white baby into the world. There are more people that are of the belief that this is natural. The neo-Nazi programming that we have been under to keep racial lines pure has done a lot of devastation to our society. And I would even say the consciousness of certain minorities that have lived their whole life in one culture that only speak one language that haven't been given proper terms and definitions. What is white anyway? What is black anyway? Are they really black? Are they really white? Is the skin tone really the greatest marker of a difference in DNA? Or are there other things that are more significant with regards to differences? It's really interesting. I can easily see this as an artificial matrix, and I do, where people come here and souls have the opportunity to evolve beyond these illusions of separation. And they can help other souls as they evolve to see through this blindness. Imagine if a certain amount of the population woke up to this that were involved in murdering other people. I don't believe we can wake up the whole world, and the world's going to continue to go in a certain direction. Can we wake up some? Will the universe and nature do the rest for us? When those of us that are involved in digital media, we give birth to a video, we give birth to an idea, we perform a rant, we upload it, and I know this video is going to reach the soldier that it needs to reach. It's going to reach the people that it needs to reach. And I'm not responsible for the rest of the world. I am responsible for the actions that I need to take to get out of a prison. As I said before, it's like a prison watching these women being violated in this way, and to realize that they are working with a brain lobal structure because they are Homo sapien, not because they're women, because they're human, just like many men are human as well. And humans have been rewired in a particular way, and I don't see it as a conscious expression. We're on a medieval barbaric path, and the worst is yet to come. The worst is yet to come. They have directed Westerners on a bloody path towards the people of the Middle East to open the door for China and Russia, to open a can of whoop ass that other people around the world, because they are Homo sapien as well. It doesn't matter that they're not Americans. You have an issue with human consciousness being hijacked by the Dark Lords, sending men and women against men and women. Hey, this group over here did this to you. Don't ask us to show you evidence that those sheep herders in Afghanistan and those peasants in Afghanistan had something to do with the Taliban's rise. Of course, that's the narrative that they fed you. And that's the narrative that they continue to feed you, even as they tell you on another note By the way, ISIS just killed this many Muslims. By the way, these ISIS members that were killed or identified, nearly all of them were in Gitmo or facilities like that where they went through their own MK Ultra process. But that's a conspiracy theory to get into the idea of the government creating terrorism. So let's just not go there. And so I'm looking at society continue to go in a very barbaric direction as I wrap up my thoughts. This Google data regarding the rape fantasies that certain females may have, without a doubt, there's a database somewhere with certain people targeted based on their search engine results, in conjunction with where they might be with their cell phone addiction, maybe using their cell phone as the main vehicle in which they're watching the hardcore pornography. But they definitely are socially engineering young women to be sexual, younger than normal, and to literally put a price tag on their ass. And the putting of the price tag on the ass on a voluntary level, and it really becoming more obvious that our current expression of society features prostitutes and johns for most relationships, with only a few exceptions. Few exceptions. And there are probably some people out there that think that they're an exception, but on an animal biological level, they're not an exception. So the illusions of separation and trapping have also kept women into a prison as well, where many of them believe they go and find happiness and pleasure with certain kinds of men. And in the end, they find themselves in a world of hurt. Likewise, there are men that falsely believe that they can only be happy unless they, and it even affects me as well because I am human, receiving the affection of perceived tribal members or just humans in general is something that as social animals we crave. The difficulty is continuing to help humanity for the course of an entire lifetime when those types of social rewards from society, positive reinforcement for positive behavior. It's difficult for a guy like me to keep going when there is no positive reinforcement for positive behavior, when I'm witnessing bad men being rewarded for their bad behavior. So when I think about literally the man and woman of today's culture and society making love on top of a pyramid of brown bodies, it's disturbing and troubling for you to hear about that brown genocide that's really happening in Afghanistan and Iraq, as Afghan and Iraqi soldiers, U.S. soldiers that have served there, are literally worshipped on a level by elements of our society. As I keep saying in these videos, how is this not then a reptilian race that we're in, that we're a part of? Or a archonic one. Somebody left a comment on alexhansery.tv. Takes one to know one, right? There's a lot of people really, really defensive about people like me calling out the society's darkness. And it's pretty obvious when I'm hitting the button, when I'm criticizing the genocide and I'm criticizing people's apathy regarding the genocide. It's really interesting to see those people pop up and get defensive when I know that there isn't a single day in the course of their entire lives that they've protested against, blogged against, or spoken against this ongoing killing machine that is affecting people and killing people they perceive to be outside their tribal structure. Because if they didn't perceive those people to be outside of themselves, they would be outraged. They wouldn't be silent about the actions of Donald Trump. They wouldn't be silent about the actions of Barack Obama. With that, we'll be back later with a future video.